Hey, just a few minutes, so we'll get the last speaker to join, and we can start. Just double checking. Yeah, Chris, I can hear you. Gwei, just making sure I can hear you as well.
Yeah, testing, testing. 3, 2,
Awesome,
1.
awesome, great. Great, glad to have you all here. I think we can start now. So every month we do hold a AMA Carnival with our partners. This time it's actually the first time we're hosting one with our grant integration partners. So really glad to have you all here. Of course, we have Chainbase, we have O3 Labs, and we have Onto Wallet, and uh, they have integrated our SDK, and of course, they went to our grant program, whether it was a first-time integration or a deeper integration. So really glad to be hosting a more interesting one that went through our grant program, which is the first time we're doing it. And before we do start, like always, we are hosting an oat campaign for this. There's 300 USD prizes in total. There's 200 USDT and 100 O3 token. So make sure you guys claim your oat and you'll have a chance to win some prizes. I think now we can start with some of the introductions. So first of all, a question to you guys. If you could please introduce yourself and give us an overview of your project and the main objectives that you have in your industry. So starting with Chris from Chainbase.
Hey everyone, thanks for inviting us. I'm Chris from Chainbase and in charge of all the non-technical parts of our practice, including marketing, partnership growth, and community, etc. In brief, the mission is to make Web3 data flow accessible and useful. To do this, our structure of the product offering is in two parts. One is data indexing platform, where we parse and process all on-chain data into standardized usable data sets. We also provide the diverse tools based on developer real user case to facilitate usage, including predefined Circle Studio, data thing, etc. So, by leveraging enriched on-chain data and streaming computing across one unified data infra, Chainbase automates indexing and querying blockchain data so developer can accomplish more with less effort. The other part is establishing our own full node network to ensure reliable, stable data products. This also enables us to provide developer RPC service and operate as the validating node for public chains. Right now, we are tier 1 validator and indexer for public chains. Up to now, there are around 4,000 developers leveraging on-chain data through our platform under different segments, including the security, wallet, analytics, gaming, NFT, and more.
Thank you, Chris. Matt from O3 Labs, would you please introduce yourself and give us a quick overview of O3 Labs?
Right, I'm Matt at O3 Labs, communications director here, focusing on social media outreach, public speaking, and generally marketing events like this awesome one here with Space ID. So great to be here and awesome audience you guys have pulled. That's great. In the midst of the bear market. Here at O3 Labs, we're generally focused on cross-chain trading and bridging. That's not to say that we're just a bridge. It's not to say that we're just a swap. We do both of those things. So we mainly focus on making it possible to trade token A on chain X for token B on chain Y. So that is to say, you can swap like USDC on the Ethereum network for Ethereum on the Polygon network all in one transaction, one fee, all wrapped up for you. And we do that through the power of aggregation. We aggregate from some of the largest decentralized exchanges in the space. You know, picture Uniswap meets PancakeSwap meets QuickSwap meets SushiSwap. We aggregate them all, and because of their deep liquidity pools and our second layer of liquidity that makes trading across chains possible. Um, so that's really our mission is decentralized trading, and we just recently introduce Space ID to our cross-chain wallet, which users can check out on the App Store. All you got to do is search O3 cross-chain wallet, and you could input your Space ID name onto that wallet, trade across chains, or trade on chain. If you're used to trading on Arbitrum or used to trading on Polygon, you could trade on chain as well. And basically, our app allows for all of that directly within your decentralized wallet. And that's the gist of us here at O3 Labs. Thanks for giving me the time.
Thank you, Matt, for the intro. And lastly, Humpty from Onto Wallet, could you please also introduce yourself and also what you guys are doing at Onto Wallet?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. First of all, my name is Humpty Calderon. I've been a contributor in the Web3 space since about 2017. I've been involved with Ontology now for, a large part of that. Firstly, I was a developer on their network around 2018. And in 2020, I joined as a contributor, head of community, to support their community building efforts. Onto Wallet is just one of the many products that Ontology has built with a focus on decentralized identity. Ontology has been a contributor and a member of the Decentralized Identity Foundation since even before they launched their mainnet. So the focus on building digital identities in a decentralized environment is something that has been of tremendous focus over at Ontology. And so because of that focus, because of that expertise, Onto Wallet is the number one identity wallet, if not the only identity wallet in the market today. What I mean by that is in a decentralized space, to be able to own and manage your own identity is becoming more and more important. And Onto Wallet allows you to create a decentralized identity as easy as it is to create a wallet. So when you generate a wallet on Onto, you easily create and at the same time a decentralized identity, which then you can use across multiple blockchains. Aside from the identity aspect, Onto also, of course, allows you to manage your data and your assets. There's, at this point now, over 1 million users with the support of over 1,000 dApps and 60 blockchains. So pretty amazing work being done over at Onto. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to participate in the conversation here today.
Thank you, Humpty. Thank you for the intro. Let's go over to a question trying to basically see how your projects were started and what kind of issues you guys are trying to solve. First of all, Chris, a question to you. So how did Chainbase begin and what are you guys trying to solve?
All right, thanks for the question. From our perspective, we represent a paradigm shift of data. In the internet world, big companies' data remains in proprietary environment despite cloud service, with issues like redundant, non-credible data. So the blockchain network is a unified global database. Each public chain and project are data sources, and Web3 projects are inherently data-driven. This amplifies the importance of data. However, due to the blockchain security property, the data exists as cryptographic hashes. So building a network to make on-chain data agile, open, and usable is very valuable. This is our goal. Moreover, with the AI wave, I think the future data volume might be orders of magnitude more than today. Enabling AI consumption of data must also be solved. So in brief, we built a Web3 data network, lowering the threshold of trustless on-chain data use, improving circulation efficiency, and creating data value.
Got it. Thank you, Chris. Matt, what about you guys? For O3 Labs, how did O3 Labs begin, and what are you guys trying to solve right now?
Yeah, so O3 Labs began as a wallet in the Neo community. We were one of the top wallets for the Neo ecosystem. Uh, that was way back in like 2017, 2018, before I joined O3 Labs. Then we wanted to solve the interoperability issues with Ethereum and Ethereum virtual machine EVM compatible chains. So that's when we launched the first O3 swap DApp, which featured mixed assets in liquidity pools, like picture ETH, USDC, USDT, Heco, USDT. Heco was a popular chain back then, all in the same pool, and then users would be able to trade those across a chain that those liquidity pools would be hosted on different blockchains, like 3 blockchains at a time. Um, Fast forward to today, and the technology for cross-chain tech, different blockchains communicating with one another effectively and safely, it is much more advanced. And what we're seeing now is through the power of aggregation and using the liquidity within ultra safe decentralized exchanges, we could actually swap any token for any other token on a different chain, provided that there's enough liquidity. Um, the issue has been native tokens and minting stablecoins on new blockchains in order to give users a chance to swap into stables. There are some issues with that. Currently, we're working with Circle and their cross-chain transfer protocol in order to make that part of it, like the stablecoin middleman, if you will, ultra secure, limitless liquidity, and zero slippage. So one of the things that really frustrates users is they want to take money out of one of their pockets on one blockchain, for instance, Ethereum, and put it into another pocket on another blockchain, for instance, Arbitrum. And there's usually a slippage in doing that. Now, imagine if there was slippage every time you changed the pocket that your wad of cash is in. You wouldn't really enjoy that. So that's really the one of the fundamental things that O3 is trying to solve. We don't want users to suffer from slippage when they're just moving money across blockchains. We don't see the point in that, and that's what we're focusing on these days.
Thanks for the overview, Matt. Hamti, same question to you. Where did you guys start, and what are you currently trying to solve?
Yeah, thank you. So I think I kind of introduced a little bit of that earlier in terms of the primary focus of Onto, or at least its unique proposition in the non-custodial wallet ecosystem. I think non-custodial wallets may not be something that is unfamiliar to many of us. It's just a kind of normal operational tool for interacting in the Web3 space. However, because of this, expertise and knowledge and kind of understanding of the complexities of digital identities and the desire to want to create a more self-sovereign individual, Ontology created Onto Wallet to be able to support that type of identity, that type of ownership in the Web3 space. So Onto Wallet exists really to provide people with an easy onboarding mechanism to that world. I think recently we've been seeing kind of a variety of different examples of the value of ownership, specifically in our identities. I think to say that the value of ownership in our assets isn't new is an understatement. I know for me personally, since I came into the space, this idea of not your keys, not your crypto was always commonly set as a mantra to remind ourselves that we needed to own these assets in a way where no one can censor our ownership over it. The same can be said about our identities. Not our keys, not our identity, if you will. And what I mean by that is, for many of us, maybe including on this platform, we may be familiar with creating an identity that we can use to access these channels, to interact with individuals, to interact with projects like this one. But at any given moment, this centralized company can censor our accounts and block them. And we no longer have access to this community. Sure, we can create a new account, but any of the history, any of the data that's basically proved our value to this community and to our friends in this space is removed. And so the same thing can be said about any social platform, really. And it doesn't have to be social, but just any platform on which you create an identity. So this idea of being able to own our identities and the data that goes along with that is really kind of the primary focus here, where using decentralized identity, you can now truly own that. And more importantly, have a portable identity that you can use across different applications, different protocols. A really cool thing that I don't know is if it's necessarily talked enough about is that when you create a decentralized identity on Onto, for instance, you're able to use that same identity across all of the blockchains in which that identity has been integrated. I think at this point, while Onto is supporting over 60 blockchains, the identities, I think, are about 10 blockchains. So there's a lot of work that can be done there. And what the way that you can think about that is, currently, if you're using a wallet on a blockchain, for instance, that wallet is not necessarily usable or easily portable to another blockchain. Meaning that any of the reputation, if you will, that you've earned on that identity cannot easily be carried over to another blockchain. Decentralized identifiers work very differently. They bind multiple wallets from different blockchains, meaning now I can appear and present myself in every blockchain the same way. And more importantly, I can build a reputation on that identity that is also portable. So the next step really is, how can we take those identities and start using them on platforms like this? And that really is kind of the giant leap that this technology needs to make. But we're not too far, right? Because there's companies like Microsoft, for instance, that are already supporting this technology and using it across many of their services, like Office 365 if you have an email with them, or even LinkedIn if you have an account there, where you can attest to your credentials verifiably using this technology. So, I think that that's a really interesting problem and a problem space to work in. And again, in my opinion, one of the main reasons why Onto is one of the more interesting and valuable pieces of technology that we have today in the Web3 space.
Very interesting. Thank you to Humpty from Onto Wallet. Thanks to all of you for giving us a more deeper look into what you guys are doing, what you guys are trying to solve. I do want to go ahead and try to understand more about each of your projects individually. So starting from Chainbase. So Chris, I do have a question for you. What are the main advantages of Chainbase over other data infrastructures out there right now? Oh, I think Chris has left the call, I think. Okay. So we'll get back to Chris on that later. So back to Matt from O3 Labs. There are a lot of crypto wallets out there. So a similar question, what are the main advantages that you guys have over at O3 Wallet compared to the other crypto wallets that are currently out there?
Well, the first would be it's cross-chain. So you can have like all your assets on all the different chains and then send them to yourself, and it will be in the exact same gap. I do it all the time, and we have the swap portion of the wallet like directly there. So like on MetaMask you would ordinarily have to go to a browser, right, and then go to a DEX. Not so with O3 Cross-Chain Wallet. That swap UI UX is directly there for any user to take advantage of directly within their mobile device. You don't have to leave your mobile device or leave the dApp in a browser in order to make a swap. We make that super convenient. I would say another awesome thing about O3 Cross-Chain Wallet is that you can see all of your NFTs on all of the different chains directly on the mobile dApp. So I'm always looking at like my NFTs, screenshotting them, and like bringing them to Twitter, all from O3 Cross-Chain Wallet, not from MetaMask, because MetaMask can sometimes take a while to like load the NFTs. Even on MetaMask, I can still see like NFTs that I had sold like long, long ago. For instance, maybe you sold that bean. I don't suspect you did, but maybe you still like it. You would still see it in your MetaMask. It's like, oh, I sold that. Not so on O3 because we aggregate the NFT data from platforms like OpenSea and OnePlanet. There's just a whole lot of features in O3 Cross-Chain Wallet that really fly under the radar. Especially now, you can link your Space ID with O3 Cross-Chain Wallet. So imagine if you want to send an NFT to a friend, like, oh, okay, I would send it to who? Oh, arton.bnb. And then directly it shows up in the O3 Cross-Chain Wallet. That's another great feature that we just recently added. And of course, I gotta plug it on the Space ID space here.
Of course, thanks, Matt. And yeah, I still do like my bean. Have not sold it, but that's a very interesting feature. Thank you. Let's get back to Chris from Chainbase. So, Chris, we missed you there while you were rejoining. The question was, what are the main advantages of Chainbase over other data infrastructures that are out there right now? Yeah, I think, Chris, I think we're having a trouble hearing you again. So could you please try rejoining again, making sure you do fix it like last time. We'll get back to you with your question after it's fixed. And for now, Humpty, I have taken a look at your social media profiles and noticed that you guys have been leaning towards integrating with the Cosmos network. I wanted to ask, what are the advantages of this integration, and what's motivating you guys to go that route?
I think I saw a poll asking the community what the sentiment was about wanting to integrate with Cosmos. I don't have any specific knowledge of the next blockchain that's getting integrated. I wish I had that information to share here, but I don't. But generally, I can say that the Cosmos ecosystem is quite broad and deep at the same time. So if you were to ask me my personal opinion, why should anybody integrate with the Cosmos ecosystem, it would be that there's a very active community there. There are a lot of very interesting developments happening. It's actually quite a unique ecosystem when you consider some other blockchains in the public blockchain space. So and I think the value proposition is a bit different. The services and maybe even the consumer is very different for what Cosmos is building. So with that said, I think there's a lot of value for not just Onto but anyone to want to integrate with Cosmos. And to kind of add to that, I think it's important to realize, or just for all of us to really understand as developers, that there's value in servicing communities of different kinds. and to be able to provide them with tooling to provide some sort of familiarity and accessibility to features and use cases and utility that maybe other communities are able to enjoy. So, yeah, I don't know if that was maybe such a direct answer, but really just kind of sharing my opinion here in terms of the Cosmos community and why, I would definitely, and why I voted yes on that poll myself.
For sure, for sure, that was definitely a sufficient answer. I know you can't directly say, or maybe you don't know what's going to be integrated next. Was just wondering why you guys are leaning towards that. I think your answer was great. Just want to check with Chris. Chris, could you try and muting yourself and see if your microphone is working now? Yeah, Chris, I think we are having the same issue, the same trouble hearing you as before. You can try rejoining again. We'll definitely get back to your questions once everything is back to normal. But for now, let's try to move on into the further questions we have for you guys. So, SpaceID has launched its grant program for a couple of months now, and it has helped push a lot of integrations for us, which is of course very beneficial for our holders to be able to utilize their domains in a lot of different projects. So, talking about the grant program, I want to gain a deeper understanding of the impact of these grant integration projects and the alignment with the grant program's goals. How has the grant impacted the progress and development of your projects? And can you maybe share any specific milestones or achievements that were made through the grant? And maybe also talk about if this grant did help you integrate the Space ID SDK in a quicker manner. So starting, I know Chris is still having trouble, so starting with you, Matt, for O3 Labs.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question? Yeah, I
Yeah, sure.
didn't quite catch it.
Sure. How has you guys did go through our grant program, so just wondering how has the grant impacted the progress or development of your project? Can you share any specific milestones or achievements that were made through the grant, and maybe if the grant has helped you guys integrate the Space ID SDK in a quicker manner?
Absolutely, yeah. The team at Space ID has been nothing if not forthright uh, and collaborative with O3 Labs in terms of making sure the integration with O3 Cross-Chain Wallet has run smoothly. Yeah, of course, every time you're running a development team, any opportunity to get grants is an opportunity, at least at O3 Labs, that a team should consider. And of course, the opportunity here, we've taken it. There's no looking back. We're proud of it. We're proud of our partnership with Space ID. Every event we've done with you guys has been extremely professional, and we're proud of the new utility that this integration brings the users of O3 Cross Chain Wallet. As you guys all know, the wallet address of these self custody wallets is not something that you can remember on the top of your head. It's not like your home phone number growing up where you can memorize it. So having your name or your nickname or your alias from Twitter as your wallet name really allows you to participate in NFT communities, in DeFi communities, in a way, in a decentralized way that the original wallet address that you're given, that long chain of letters and numbers, it just doesn't. It doesn't give you the same identity. It doesn't give you the same clout. Of course, we all remember, Twitter names, people on Twitter who make good threads and whatnot. If you're running a Twitter and you want to have donations run through a decentralized wallet, Space ID is the way to go. If you're checking up on scams and you're informing people about what's going on in DeFi, what's going on in NFTs, and you're raising money for your brand, your personal brand, Space ID is the way to go. That is a decentralized, on-chain way of producing profit for your brand, for your identity, for your company, and that's what we're enabling for all of our users here at O3 Labs and O3 Cross Chain Wallet. So this really breaks down barriers. When you're communicating with people across the globe who don't necessarily come from your background, but they want to participate in this type of economy, like this global economy. That I tend to think that blockchain these days, it's not it's a living thing. Like, it's not really under the thumb of any one entity, and I think for that reason, it's extremely exciting to be a part of.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, actually, personally, I really do share a very, very similar view that you just described here. It is really game changing, in my opinion, as well. And I'm glad we can provide more utility for you guys. And I'm glad the grant did incentivize. And I'm glad to hear your experience with us was only professional. That's a very, very great reply. Thank you.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
problem. I mean, speak truth to the collaboration. We had
thank
nothing
you.
but a positive experience in dealing with you and your team, and so no, thank you.
Thank you. Likewise, likewise. I see we have Chris back. Chris, glad to have you back.
Yeah, thank you so much for waiting me.
Yeah, no worries. So we do have one question we skipped for you. We'll get back to that later. I think I'll ask you the question I have asked to the other speakers here as well. So, Chris, how has the grant impacted the progress and development of Chainbase? Can you share any achievements that were made through the grant, and maybe if the grant did incentivize you guys to integrate our SDK in a quicker manner?
Yeah, for sure. Firstly, Space ID is unadoptable and a leading project in on-chain identity and social, with excellent community and product capabilities, uh, which has tremendous help to promote our collaboration. So our initial cooperation have two goals, I guess. Firstly, jointly build a standardized dataset to simplify developer access to Space ID data. And second, integrate the Space ID API into our Web3 API suite, enabling more developer to leverage Space ID and unlock composability. Currently, I think both aspects are commercially viable, and also over the last year, Chainbase have accumulated strong capability in parsing on-chain data for domain and social data. So this allowed us to provide a high quality standardized data sets as what we made with Space ID. And for data wise, Space ID have extremely valuable and high quality on-chain data, and jointly created this data set to give us clear understanding on how identified data empowered the entire industry. And long term wise, I think we also hope to work with Space ID to bring in more projects maintaining identity and profile data, collectively enhancing the identity dataset and make it open. Will benefit the entire industry, I believe.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for that detailed answer. Chris, we will get back to one of your questions we missed after we give a chance for Humpty to answer this as well. So, Humpty, I'm not going to repeat the question. I think it's pretty clear unless you need me to repeat it. So, same question for you for On2 Wallet. Let's talk about the grant. How did it help you?
Yeah, thank you. I don't have any specific knowledge on that, but what I can say is, and I think I commented that on the comment section here while Gui was talking. I think what he said there was incredibly well said, well put in terms of the value proposition of Space ID and the purpose or the reason why it's an incredible partnership for Onto. Accessibility is key, right? In this ecosystem, um, that it has plenty of challenges, tons of complexity. Any way that we can make the usability of crypto, of Web3 identities easier, I'm 100% supportive of. And I think the idea of being able to provide a user with a again a much easier to read, easier to write, method for their addressing is a step in the right direction. There's already this, challenge of having to remember private keys. That's not the way that we operate normally outside of Web3. Where usually we just have to remember a username, whether that username is our social username for, say, Twitter, LinkedIn, or our email address, whether that's on Gmail or our work emails. A lot of these things, firstly, we have the opportunity to be able to design ourselves, where we're able to find an identity that is meaningful to us and basically create an identity around that. And then again, password schemas, sure, we could do better in terms of protecting our accounts and not repeating the same passwords and being able to remember a million passwords. But again, we do have a choice, right? It's this autonomy, it's this agency that we have to select not just the way that we present ourselves, but also the way that we secure our accounts. In the Web3 space, we have very little opportunities to design in either of those spaces. Our Web3 wallets are generated for us, and even our when I was talking earlier about decentralized identifiers, we don't, as an individual, we don't generate that. The system generates that for us. And if anything, it probably looks a little more complex than your traditional Web3 wallet. So if anything, it's not making it easier in that sense. So to be able to provide everyone an easier way to present themselves. Again, we talk about self-sovereignty. I think self-sovereignty also comes with the ability to choose how we present ourselves in public spaces. And if we can use a space ID to make that much more simple, why not? Like, absolutely. That should be a proposition for any project to want to do. So I would say, in addition to integrating that onto for, no pun there, by the way, to choose how we present ourselves using our traditional wallets. I think it'd be wonderful to also extend that in the future and see how we can integrate that to present ourselves as our digital identifiers using Space ID.
Thank you, Humpty. Yeah, that's a very great answer. Personally, I do agree. I view what we are doing on Space ID as something that's a foundational thing that should be on the user's horizon as they do join the blockchain space. Is securing their own unique name, securing their own unique identity. So thanks for that answer. Chris, two questions for you now. Since we did skip one of your questions before, the question was, what are the main advantages of Chainbase over other data infrastructures out there?
Yeah, this is a good question for us. And Chainbase's core value, I think, are three keywords. One is open, the other is the highly available, third is trustless. So start from the first one, the open. As blockchain is accessible to all, data platform on it should also be open, right? We processed all the on data, such as raw data, abstract data, protocol data, into a standardized form for sync and console use. The second word is highly available. Data service business for sure. So our products support real business scenarios and workflows, enabling data to improve revenue, efficiency, and lowering cost. For example, our webhook feature meets real-time data subscription and push notification demand. Our real-time feedback handles freshness and data reorgs. And the last one is trustless. I think you all know that this word also dominates Bitcoin's white paper, right? We hope to define usable on-chain data standardized for universal production and consumption. We already have 300 standardized datasets, all developer accessible. And also we co-developed Space ID dataset, as I mentioned previously, to facilitate its data access.
Thank you, Chris. And now trying to move on to more of the topic of the partnership itself. So I do have a question for all of you regarding the integration with Space ID. I know you all have mentioned how the integration does benefit in terms of utility for your users, but maybe you can try and see if you can explain any other things you have not mentioned yet. So starting with you again, Chris, how does what kind of benefits, what kind of more benefits does the Space ID integration into Chainbase provide in your ecosystem, and how does the integration fit into your roadmap, both in the short term and the long term?
Yeah, as I said, I think this cooperation and this grant let us understand more about the identity and the profile data as we did previously. Because our business is more on data side, right? We parse, I mean, 100 domain and social data, and because Space ID have the most high quality and valuable data on either the identity of the user or the profile of the on-chain address. So based on the data, we can find more knowledge behind it. And in the long term wise, our cooperation and our resource can be open sourced to any other newcomers. They want to know how on-chain identity is built up and how each address profile looks. This gonna benefit the whole industry, as I mentioned previously.
Thank you, Chris. Very awesome to hear that. Similar question to you, Matt. So, among the multiple products that you guys have at O3 Labs, why did you choose O3 Wallet as the first product into integrating Space ID? And what's the potential you see? Do you have any other plans on integrating Space ID into your other products?
Currently, we're not focused on that, but that could change in the future, right? I mean, like just let's stay in touch with the Space ID team. Um, but currently, like I said, we're focused on these no slippage stablecoin bridgings, like and swapping across chains. I would say. Uh, I think what it's really brought us here at O3 Cross Chain Wallet is the ability to identify which networks our users like the most via their Space ID, because Space ID exists on a few different blockchains, right? So we can see which one that they most associate with via their .bnb or their .arb wallet address. So that really gives us insight into like who we're serving by building this DeFi product that allows users to swap across chains. Because I think some users are really just interested in one community. Maybe they're only interested in NFTs. Maybe they're only interested in BNB chain. Maybe they're only interested in DeFi on Arbitrum. And I think this integration with Face ID really gives us a clue as to who those anonymous users are into and what they like to do on chain, which is super important. I know Chris was talking about a lot of the data and getting to know like who who's doing what on chain. I think that's where we're at in terms of the O3 cross chain wallet integration. As for the future, I again, yeah, I'm not aware of what more we can do to collaborate upon, but you know, I'm all ears. The team is all ears, and we're certainly happy to be partners with Space ID and to have the events like these where we have such a big audience tuning in and listening to our messages. And I yeah certainly love to be on chain. I mean on the space with the likes of Chainbase, Space ID, and Onto Wallet. Yeah, and I want to shout out Humpty. I thought that getting onto tagline was pretty funny. I know it wasn't intended, but
On to, yes, they're cracking up as well. Thanks. Thank you, Matt. we are looking forward for, of course, for any future potential collaborations. Hamti, same question for you. I know you definitely have mentioned, you have definitely talked about how this benefits us, how this benefits you, but maybe anything else you can tell us regarding the benefits you guys expect out of this collaboration.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I think that we should do a marketing campaign around Onto. I actually don't. I'm pretty sure I know why it's called Onto. It's just short for ontology. But I'd like the idea of saying you're getting onto Web3. So hey, thanks for the marketing ideas while we're here. Yeah. Again, I think part of what Gray was saying resonates. Firstly, thank you so much for inviting us to participate here. It's wonderful to see so many people in the audience. I was excited to see it cross 420, and I was hoping I would see it at 6969, to keep up with the memes. Um, yeah, if the question specifically asking, what do we expect the value, I guess, to be with this collaboration? I think it was, I hope I made it pretty clear previously when I was talking about accessibility. I know for me personally, that's something that I advocate for pretty strongly. Um, that we should be building bridges between the very technically complex technology that we are building and the average user, because most people who are not here yet, if not everyone who isn't here yet, is not here because this is not kind of normal daily operations of how they use technology in their everyday life. Um, the way that we need to make it as simple as turning on a TV. We need to make it as simple as connecting to the internet. We need to make it as simple as opening up your email. Like, by the way, each of those things was considered hard, I'm sure, at one point when the technology was first introduced. Not to age myself too terribly here, but I do remember having to dial into the internet, and that was a horrible, horrible experience, both to the ears, but also just generally, the experience was very, very low. The user experience was very low. So I think as technology continues to evolve, again, we introduce new complexities, but we also innovate and create more accessible solutions for making it easier to interact with it. And again, I haven't been here from the beginning. I'm not going to claim I've been here since like 2008 when Bitcoin was launched. I came in 2016. But even then, from then till now, which is approximately about 7-8 years, a lot has changed. Not just in the way that we interact with the space, with the tools that are at our disposal, but also in kind of new ways of interacting with the technology. And again, this idea of being able to create human readable, names, to be able to associate that with our digital identities, being able to create new identities that basically are made up of other identities, which then allow us to traverse the space without having to necessarily create a new identity everywhere we go, or having to generate a level of reputation everywhere we go with new identities. Being able to do that from a single identity, or still multiple identities, but still cross-chain identities, and being able to recognize one another in this space across the metaverse, as we were calling it a couple of months ago, in ways that are more familiar with us, to us, I should say. I think that that's wonderful, and certainly something that I would continue advocating for in the Onto community and within the project itself with the developers to continue to build out. Because I think that these are the experiences that make this much more palatable, much more attractive to people outside the space, and encourages them to take their first step, right? Create your wallet, generate your identity, buy your first assets, participate in the network, join a community, engage with them, earn some income that way. All of that tied to our digital identities, all of that through some sort of recognizable feature like what Space ID does.
Right, yeah. I think I certainly remember a time when email was flummoxing me. And I certainly remember a time when DeFi and trading in a decentralized way with Uniswap what was flummoxing me. But I think users they don't always need uh, they don't always need it to be so simple. But if we're gonna onboard like masses of people to Web3, it's got to be more usable than it currently is today. And that's not to say that the technology hasn't come a long way. That's just to say that we haven't succeeded in our mission in Web3 to like bank the unbanked, to onboard like fiat in a meaningful way from across the globe. I do think that crypto is very much a living thing in today, more so than it was 2 years ago. But I still don't think that we're at the end of the road. And for sure, Space ID, yeah, making a memorable address that you can remember and send funds to, even if it's just sending to yourself, right? Because of course you can have an address with funds and then an address named a Space ID that has no funds. You can even sleep on that ID and make sure that it doesn't touch any DApp. There's so much that you can do. To increase your security, take charge of your Web3 identity. That I definitely see what Space ID is trying to do and think that it's 100% necessary for the space in order to take that next step into mainstream ability, right?
Yeah, one thing just to kind of build on that, um, since you responded, I think in terms of the adoption of crypto and Web3, um, is the future will have different. So I guess I'll preface this by saying I think just crypto and Web3 in general is a multiplayer game. So what I mean by that is I think that in the future there's going to be multiple portals to enter the space. And some will have different flavors of decentralization, some will not be decentralized at all. And I think the success of Coinbase shows why, um, or at least to me, shows kind of where many people's interest lies and technical abilities as well. For me, that was my entry point. So I recognize Coinbase plays an important role, and centralized exchanges in general play an important role for bridging, us into this ecosystem. But what I mean by that is once we have these gateways, we'll have a portal to enter this space and play more decentralized games, and to be able to almost immediately be able to generate an identity like Space ID to then connect to the multi-chain game. I think that's pretty interesting, and I think where we'll start seeing a level of adoption that we haven't yet.
For sure. I really hate to ruin a great conversation. We are running short on time. We're gonna move on, but thank you both for very, very interesting thoughts. It's always a thing where there's so much to talk about. There's not enough time. But really, really appreciate you guys going deeper into this topic. I'm pretty sure you have noticed we have our senior BD manager, Harrison, here. Welcome back, Harrison. Really glad to have you back here again. I do have a couple of questions for you as well from the Space ID side. So, firstly, talking about integrations, how does integrations in general contribute to the advancement of Web3 domains? Oh, Harrison, I think we have lost you. We cannot hear you. Could you try rejoining to see if that works? We'll get back to you as well. Wow, today it looks like we are having some issues with Discord, and Chris has been having the same issues as well. So while Harrison is getting back, we are running short on time. I do have one more question for each of you before we also let Harrison speak a bit. So first of all, this is for O3 Labs and onto wallet. So user experience, it plays a vital role in wallet adoption. So what strategies have you guys put in place to drive adoption and attract new users to your projects? So starting with Matt for O3 Labs.
Well, we've adopted several different ways of allowing users to cross chains and contribute to liquidity pools in order to earn rewards in the form of tokens. I would say that's really the innovation that we're always looking to improve upon is securely and efficiently crossing chains. And I think the next thing that we have coming out from our project is going to be substantive in terms of allowing users to do that in the most efficient, cost effective, and more than anything, safe way. Because in the cross chain space, a lot of you might not understand, there is a lot of vulnerability when these disparate different blockchains are communicating with one another. It's like a hacker's paradise, right? Because if there's some miscommunication between some of the smart contracts, between the mint function and the burn function, then ideally for a hacker, if there is some disruption, they'd be able to unlimitedly mint like something like I don't know, like USDC for instance, or BUSD, right? That's what our experts here at O3 Labs are always trying to make sure that it doesn't happen, and it's never happened for us. Of course, uh, we've not lost a single user a penny in the cross chain space, and we're extremely proud to say that. Uh, yeah, and I think we were definitely among the first, or probably the first to implement the cross chain wallet, where you could do swaps directly within the wallet without having to go to a browser. I think that really flew under the radar. Um, but essentially, I think the thing that we're attacking is interoperability. Making sure that communities on BNB, Arbitrum, they're not siloed to BNB and Arbitrum, right? They can move their funds seamlessly to Ethereum if they want to buy, a Bored Ape, or if they want to buy a Beans, right? We see Arten with his Beans there, you know. Um, so I think that there are many different ways of doing that, but our ethos here at O3 Labs is to accomplish it in a decentralized way because we believe that any protocol which has a single point of failure is is thoroughly flawed and centralized. If that, and we've seen it with um, cross-chain bridges before, where they're the number one bridge in the space, and then the next day they're gone, they're shut down, their operations are being, just stopped, and we understand that that is the issue with centralization, and that's something that we at O3 Labs won't allow to happen with our protocol.
Thank you, Matt. Humpty, same question for you. How are you guys driving this? Humpty, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I lost my tab, so I couldn't unmute myself. I think first and foremost, it's important to find value-aligned projects like this one and collaborate. I think collaborations have, at least for me, since the very beginning, have been really good opportunities to connect with new audiences, new communities, and share the things that are important to both of us. Whether that, and I think in this case with Space ID, we share a common belief that digital identities need a bit of a shakeup, require a level of innovation that hasn't been seen or has not yet reached a level of adoption necessary to make that leap. To engage the normal or average user, if you will. So yeah, I think the main thing that Onto focuses on, and if I think you go through the social accounts, it's pretty evident there. And if you go through the community channels, it's pretty evident there. It's collaborations. The team is always on the lookout for projects that are innovating, projects that have a community that are interested in the technology that we're building, and set up these types of collaborations. The other, obviously, and I think this speaks to the connection between Space ID and Onto, is grants. I think these funding opportunities that allow us to experiment, much more fluidly, I think are really good opportunities to kind of show how we can build tools that are interoperable and just generally fun for everyone to use.
Awesome, great, Humpty. Thank you for that answer. Harrison, I do know that your mic is now good. I had two questions for you. I'm going to make it into one question. So let's talk about integrations in general, how they contribute to the advancement of Web3 domains. And since with our grant program, we have seen integrations, we have seen incentivized integrations being done. What role does the grant program play in driving and fostering community-driven initiatives?
Hey, Artan. Yeah, thanks. I think I can kind of build off what Humpty said a little bit there. The integrations are vital for our ecosystem because in order for these NFT domain names to have value, they need to have utility throughout different protocols, different ecosystems. Whether it's DeFi, SocialFi, gaming, in DEXs or centralized exchanges, being able to bring over that verifiably unique human readable identity is going to be important to onboard these next cohort of users. In the same way now that we're all using different usernames to communicate on Discord, if we didn't know who we were communicating with on the other end, it would make it a lot more challenging. So these domain name integrations are super vital in order to continue fostering that growth. And the grants really make it easier to further incentivize that integration into these different protocols because, of course, there is a lot of utility on both ends for integrating domain name ecosystems into your platform. But a lot of projects have deadlines, they have other aspects they're building on. And this kind of just helps us prioritize, within those projects where Space ID is going to take place. So it allows us to maybe not grow larger, but grow faster in the sense that the projects that want to work with us will most likely be doing so regardless. But these grant propositions just give them that extra push to either prioritize it in some way or integrate in a deeper method, which in the end brings more utility and value back to domain name holders. So as a DAO, it's really great that the community is allocating funds towards this ecosystem growth. And as we continue to go multi-chain, as we continue to build more applications on top of the Space ID protocol, there will be continuously more value for all of our integration partners. And looking forward to continue with that through the grant program as well.
Thank you, Harrison. Thanks. Definitely, with the grant program, we are able to achieve way more for our own community, for our own growth. So that's really great to hear. And unfortunately, we are really running out of time. We are really overextended right now. So I do want to end off with one last question with all of you, talking about what you guys have coming up next for your projects. So what do you guys have in the pipeline? What do you have planned for the remainder of this year? Anything you want to share with our listeners right here? So starting with Chris from Chainbase.
Yeah, it's exciting to announce that the next 12 months gonna be our go-to-market year. During this time, we will actively engage developers and advocate the value of on-chain data through diverse channels. First of all, I think we're gonna taking a broader view of our platform, building it into a hub for Asian developers and building a strong developer community as what Space ID did for the community. And secondly, establish a couple DAO for specific blockchains to gather developer heroes. And we think we're gonna host some vertical hackathons or workshops to reward developers for building achievement. And third, I think we're gonna create an open on-chain data indexing network, enabling all developers to contribute data and share the value generated from the data. And the fourth, I guess, we're gonna have more activities on the developer incentive side, such as create more technical content with all the developer in our group, and it's either the guidance or tutorial or demo book. Hopefully, if one person solve the problem, everyone can benefit, and that's what we're gonna do during the past 12 months.
Thank you, Chris. Matt, for O3 Labs, what do you guys have planned?
Yeah, we're really focused on making a cross-chain utility platform just for the entirety of the space, in a partnership with Circle, the makers of USDC. Really not much I can reveal on this, as like, we're in the war room preparing the marketing materials like every day as we speak. But I will just say, like, if users want to get in early on this, just to follow us at O3_labs on Twitter, and we'll be revealing some sneak peeks and creating a new Twitter account for the new products we're creating with Circle, and it should be big time. We're going to be investing a lot of resources into this, a lot of brain power, and making sure that cross-chain is always available for users, and it's never down, and it's always going to be inexpensive and safe for anyone, and especially anyone who's making orders on chain. We strongly believe that this is a utility and a right for anyone who's using the blockchain, and yeah, that's our mission, and the new project should be jumping on mainnet. I want to say early August, beginning of August, so very soon.
Thank you, Matt. It's great to hear. And we have Humpty for Onto. What are you guys working on right now and for the remainder of this year?
I think the focus remains on continuing to add more integrations to the wallet. So we haven't gotten to over 1,000 apps and 60 blockchains by just us sitting around. So the integrations are our main focus of Onto, collaborations. So keep your eyes open for that. We will continue to add new features. I think the other one that I personally am a big fan of and I'm always advocating for is adding more of those blockchains to the DIDs, right? To be able to own that identity across multiple blockchains. So in addition to adding more blockchains, as you teased earlier, potentially Cosmos, also being able to take your identity with you, the same identity, and be able to use that across different blockchains.
Thank you, Humpty. Thanks for giving us more insight on that. And lastly, we have Harrison for Space ID side. Harrison, what do we have planned for Space ID?
Yeah, so we got a lot coming up, both in the short term and the long term. I think next month, especially in Q3, we have a lot of really big announcements coming out that are going to fundamentally build on what we've already created, open source it in some ways for other dApps, protocols, and ecosystems to take advantage of our base infrastructure. with that value going back to ID token holders and our community and our DAO as a whole. I can't say too much yet, just because that hasn't been publicly announced. Beyond that, we are working on releasing new top-level domains as well as integrating more established ones, so that our SDK becomes even more valuable, hosts more networks across a variety of chains. Fostering those already established domain name ecosystems that we won't necessarily be going after, but we can incorporate to bring value to projects that want to integrate with our APIs and offer domain name services. So lots of really exciting stuff. Still building out to that universal domain name platform and aggregator, so that regardless of if you're a retail user wanting to manage your different domains, or if you're a developer wanting to integrate these on multiple different levels, it's going to be really, really simple, and you're going to, be able to bypass a lot of the previous work necessary. So stay tuned. August is going to be definitely an exciting month for Space ID community.
Thank you, Harrison. Very exciting. I do want to end off on this note. Very glad to have our speaker join us today. Very interesting discussion. We did went over a little bit over time. I do see we have lost Matt already, but we really glad to have him. Was glad to have him on here as well. Same to you, Chris. Same to you, Humpty. Really great discussion. For our audience, make sure you guys do claim the oath if you have listened in for at least 25 minutes. You will have a chance to win some of the prizes. And on that note, I'd like to thank our guest once again. And for our audience, we will see you guys next week. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Humpty. Thank you, Harrison.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys. Really enjoyed listening in.
Thank you.